When hope dies, legends are born. The crystal spires of Athros burned against the violet sky as Emperor Thalarin stood before the massive holographic display in his war room. Each pulsing red dot represented another system consumed by the Void Swarm. 15 star systems, billions of lives, all gone in less than 4 months. The Emperor's silver scales had dulled with stress, and his usually proud posture sagged under the weight of failure. Around him, his war council argued in heated whispers, but their words felt hollow. Every strategy had failed. Every weapon proved useless against an enemy that seemed to exist beyond the laws of physics itself. A soft chime announced an arrival. The massive doors slid open, and General Lyra stepped into the chamber. Her midnight blue uniform was travel-worn, and exhaustion lined her reptilian features. Behind her walked 5 figures that made the entire room fall silent. They were bipedal, like many species, but something about them felt different. They had pale skin stretched over compact frames, and strange fibrous material grew from their heads in various colors. Their clothes were simple, practical, and showed signs of long use. Most unsettling were their eyes. They held a depth of experience that seemed impossible for such young-looking beings. "Your Imperial Majesty," General Lyra said, her voice carefully controlled. "I have returned from the Outer Rim." Emperor Thalarin's golden eyes narrowed. "Where is the army I sent you to recruit, General? Where are the 10,000 mercenary ships we desperately need?" The silence stretched like a taut wire. Several council members began to whisper among themselves, their voices growing louder with each passing second. "This is what you bring us," Chancellor Vextus demanded, his voice shrill with panic. 5 unknown aliens and whatever ship they arrived in. We face annihilation, and you return with this. The tallest of the strange beings stepped forward. She had dark hair pulled back severely, and wore what appeared to be a captain's insignia on her simple gray jacket. "Your Imperial Majesty," she said, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. "I am Captain Alina Cross. We understand your disappointment." "Disappointment?" Admiral Corax laughed bitterly. "We sent our best general to recruit an army capable of fighting the Void Swarm. She returns with 5 beings whose species we don't even recognize." A male with short brown hair and intense green eyes spoke up. "With respect, Admiral, you asked for fighters capable of stopping an enemy that adapts to conventional warfare. We are that." "You are 5 individuals with 1 ship," Chancellor Vextus scoffed. "The Void Swarm consumed the Helix Federation's Grand Fleet, 300,000 vessels, in less than 6 hours. The human female with short black hair and scientific markings on her jacket stepped closer to the holographic display. "Dr. Marcus Webb," she introduced herself. "May I examine your tactical data?" "Absolutely not," Admiral Corax snapped. "Military intelligence is not for unknown aliens, though." "Let her look," Emperor Thalarin said quietly. Something in the human's calm confidence intrigued him. Dr. Webb moved to the display controls with fluid precision. Her fingers danced across the interface, bringing up battle recordings and sensor data that even the Empire's best tacticians struggled to interpret. "Fascinating," she murmured. "These aren't traditional machines at all. They exist in a state of quantum flux, shifting between dimensions during combat. That's why your weapons pass through them unpredictably." The room fell dead silent. The Zephyrian Empire's greatest scientific minds had been studying the Void Swarm for months without reaching that conclusion. A human female with auburn hair tied in a practical ponytail approached another console. "Sarah Chen, engineer," she said, introducing herself. "Your shield technology is impressive, but it operates on fixed frequencies. Against an enemy that exists in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, fixed defenses are useless." Chancellor Vextus stumbled backward. "How do you know this? Who are you people?" The 5th human, a lean male with calculating eyes, finally spoke. "Alex Volkov. We know because we fought them before." His voice carried a weight that made even the battle-hardened Zephyrian officers uncomfortable. "That's impossible," Admiral Corax protested. "We've never encountered your species before. If you had fought the Void Swarm, we would have records." "You would have records if we had won," Captain Cross interrupted. "We didn't." Emperor Thelerin stepped down from his throne for the first time in weeks. "Explain." The humans exchanged glances, a silent communication that spoke of shared trauma and unimaginable loss. "We called them the Dark Tide," Dr. Webb said quietly. "They consumed our entire civilization. 7 billion humans across 43 colonies, gone in 18 months. But you survived," General Lyra observed. "Some of us," Sarah Chen said. 12 ships, 3,000 people. We've been running ever since." "How long?" the Emperor asked. 17 years, Captain Cross replied. 17 years of staying ahead of something that shouldn't exist. The weight of that revelation settled over the room like a suffocating blanket. These weren't just mercenaries or pirates. They were the last survivors of an extinct civilization. If your entire species couldn't stop them. Chancellor Vextus whispered, "What hope do 5 of you offer us?" The 5th human, who had remained quiet, stepped forward. "James Rodriguez, weapons specialist," he said. "The difference is that we learned." Before anyone could ask what he meant, alarms began screaming throughout the palace. The holographic display exploded with new contacts at the system's edge. "Void Swarm Scouts," Admiral Corax gasped. "They're early. 3 days early." 12 dark shapes materialized at the edge of the Ethros system. They moved wrong, flickering in and out of normal space like living shadows. Each one was the size of a battleship, but moved with impossible grace. "All ships to intercept," Emperor Thalerin commanded. "Destroy them before they can report back to the main swarm." "Wait," Captain Cross said sharply. "We cannot wait," Admiral Corax snapped. "If those scouts transmit our defense positions, they've already transmitted everything they need," Dr. Webb said, studying the sensor readings. "Look at their approach vectors. They're not here to scout. They're here to learn how you fight." Sarah Chen was working at another console. "Your fleet's weapon signatures, shield frequencies, tactical protocols. They're absorbing all of it in real time. Then we destroy them now," the Admiral declared, reaching for the fleet command controls. "No," Alex Volkov said, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "You'll be teaching them how to kill your main fleet." Emperor Thalerin looked between his panicking officers and the strangely calm humans. "What do you suggest?" Captain Cross walked to the observation deck's massive windows. Through them, they could see the stellar phantom hanging in space near the palace. It was smaller than most Zephyrian fighters, its hull a patchwork of repairs and modifications that seemed to have no consistent design philosophy. "We handle this," she said simply. Chancellor Vextus laughed hysterically. "One small ship against 12 Void Swarm Scouts. This is madness." "Probably," Sarah Chen agreed. "But it's our kind of madness." The humans moved toward the exit with purposeful strides. As they reached the door, Captain Cross turned back. "Your Imperial Majesty, we'll need unrestricted access to your quantum communication network." "For what purpose?" Admiral Corax demanded. "To call home," James Rodriguez said, his words carrying an ominous weight. "But you said your species was extinct," General Lyra protested. Dr. Webb smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't entirely reassuring. "We said our civilization was consumed. We never said we were the only survivors." As the humans left the throne room, Emperor Thalerin felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Curiosity mixed with hope. These strange beings carried themselves like soldiers who had already lost everything that mattered. There was a freedom in their movements, a terrible purpose that spoke of people who had nothing left to lose. Through the observation windows, they watched the stellar phantom detach from its docking clamp. The ship moved wrong, just like the Void Swarm Scouts. It flickered and phased, existing in multiple locations simultaneously before settling into a course that should have been impossible given its apparent engine configuration. "What have you brought us?" Emperor Thalarin whispered to General Lyra. The general watched the human ship approach the Void Swarm scouts with something that might have been. When physics bends, heroes rise. The stellar phantom moved through space like a ghost haunting reality itself. On the palace observation deck, Emperor Thalarin and his war council watched in stunned silence as the small human ship engaged 12 Void Swarm scouts simultaneously. "This is impossible," Chancellor Vextus whispered, his scaled hands pressed against the reinforced crystal windows. "No single ship can fight 12 enemies at once." The tactical display showed something that defied every law of physics the Zephyrians understood. The stellar phantom appeared to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, each phantom image firing different weapons that shouldn't have been able to coexist on the same vessel. "Admiral," General Lyra called out, "are you seeing this sensor data?" Admiral Korax stared at his instruments with disbelief. "The human ship is generating quantum interference patterns I've never seen before. It's not just moving fast. It's moving through folded spacetime." On the display, 3 Void Swarm scouts suddenly imploded, their dark hulls collapsing into points of impossible light before vanishing entirely. The remaining 9 scouts began to retreat, their usual adaptive behavior failing against an enemy that seemed to exist outside normal reality. "They're running." Dr. Zephes, the Empire's chief scientist, breathed in amazement. "The Void Swarm never runs." Emperor Thalarin activated the communication system. "Captain Cross, this is Emperor Thalarin. What is your status?" Belena's voice crackled through the speakers, distorted by some kind of energy interference. "Scouts neutralize, Your Imperial Majesty. But we have a bigger problem." The holographic display suddenly expanded, showing the edge of the star system. What they saw made every person in the room step backward in horror. The main Void Swarm fleet was arriving. Not in 6 hours as predicted, but now. Hundreds of massive dark ships materialized from whatever dimension they called home, each one larger than the Zephyrian Empire's greatest dreadnoughts. "How many?" Emperor Thalarin asked, though he dreaded the answer. 417 capital ships, Sarah Chen's voice replied through the comm. "Plus supporting vessels. They're not here to probe your defenses anymore. This is total war." Admiral Korax was already issuing orders. "All fleets to defensive positions. Activate the planetary shields. Scramble every fighter we have." "It won't be enough." Dr. Webb's voice cut through the chaos. "Your conventional forces can't touch them. We've run the calculations." "Then what do you suggest?" General Lyra demanded. There was a long pause before Captain Cross responded. "We implement the Quantum Cascade Protocol." The silence that followed was heavy with implications no one understood. "What is that?" Emperor Thalarin asked. "Something we swore we'd never use again." James Rodriguez's voice carried a weight of old pain. "Something that cost us everything the first time." Through the observation windows, they could see the Zephyrian fleet moving to engage the Void Swarm. 300 of the Empire's finest warships, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor and bristling with quantum torpedoes. They looked magnificent and utterly doomed. "Your Majesty," Alex Volkov's voice was barely a whisper through the comm. "We need you to evacuate the planet. Everyone. Every living being." "Absolutely not," Chancellor Vextus protested. "Ethros has never fallen. We will not abandon our homeworld." "You don't understand," Dr. Webb said, her voice breaking slightly. "The Quantum Cascade Protocol doesn't just destroy the enemy. It destroys everything." Emperor Thalarin felt ice form in his hearts. "Explain." 17 years ago, Captain Cross began, when the dark tide consumed our homeworld of Terra, we had one chance to stop them. We had built a weapon that could collapse the quantum foundations of spacetime itself, a weapon that could erase anything from existence. "But," General Lyra prompted. "But it doesn't discriminate," Sarah Chen said. When we activated it, we didn't just destroy the dark tide ships in our system. We destroyed our star, our planets, our entire solar system. We erased our home from reality itself. The weight of that revelation settled over the room like a physical presence. These humans weren't just survivors of genocide. They were the ones who had committed it, destroying their own civilization to save the galaxy. And you want to do that here? Admiral Corax demanded. No, Alina said firmly. We want to do it better. On the tactical display, the first engagement between the Zephyrian fleet and the Void Swarm began. Quantum torpedoes lanced through space, striking the dark ships with devastating force. For a moment, hope flickered in the war room. Then the Void Swarm adapted. The dark ships began to phase, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Zephyrian weapons passed through them harmlessly, while return fire tore through the Empire's finest vessels like paper. 17 ships lost, Admiral Corax reported, his voice hollow. They adapted to our weapons in less than 3 minutes. Your Majesty, Alina's voice was urgent now. We've spent 17 years perfecting the Cascade Protocol. We can target it precisely, limit its effects, but we need your people clear of the combat zone. Emperor Thalarin looked at his advisors, seeing his own desperation reflected in their faces. How long do we have? At current loss rates, your fleet has maybe 20 minutes, Dr. Webb calculated. After that, the Void Swarm will begin planetary bombardment. Begin the evacuation, Emperor Thalarin commanded. Your Majesty, Chancellor Vextus protested. We cannot. Begin the evacuation now, the Emperor repeated, his voice carrying absolute authority. As evacuation alarms began sounding throughout the capital, the human ship moved to a position between the dying Zephyrian fleet and Athros itself. Through the observation windows, they could see the stellar phantom beginning to change. Its hull plates separated and rearranged themselves in impossible configurations. Energy began to build around the ship, not the familiar glow of normal technology, but something that hurt to look at directly. A light that seemed to come from outside normal space. All remaining Zephyrian vessels, this is Captain Cross. Alina's voice filled the communication channels. Retreat to minimum safe distance immediately. What's minimum safe distance? Admiral Corax asked. Other side of the star, James Rodriguez replied grimly. The surviving Zephyrian ships pulled back as the Void Swarm fleet advanced on the planet. 400 dark ships moving in perfect formation, ready to consume another world. Alina, Dr. Webb's voice came through the internal human communications. Marcus has the calculations locked in. Sarah's got the quantum field generators at maximum stable output. James has armed the cascade charges. Alex? Alina asked. Reconnaissance shows the entire Void Swarm fleet concentrated in the target zone, Alex reported. This is our best chance. Emperor Thalarin activated the communication system one final time. Captain Cross, on behalf of the Zephyrian Empire, I want to thank you for... Don't. Alina interrupted gently. Thank us if we survive this. The stellar phantom suddenly blazed with impossible light. Reality began to bend around it, space-time twisting into configurations that shouldn't exist. The Void Swarm fleet, sensing a new threat, turned their weapons on the small human ship. Dark energy beams lanced out, each one capable of destroying a planet. They struck the stellar phantom and simply ceased to exist, absorbed into the growing quantum distortion field surrounding the ship. Now, Alina whispered. The universe screamed. A sphere of absolute nothingness expanded from the stellar phantom's position, growing to encompass the entire Void Swarm fleet. Where it touched the dark ships, they didn't explode or burn. They simply stopped being. 400 massive vessels, each one a monument to conquered civilizations, erased from existence as if they had never been. But the sphere kept growing. Alina. Dr. Webb's voice was strained through the quantum interference. We can't stop it. The cascade is feeding on itself. Through the observation windows, they could see the stellar phantom at the center of the expanding void, its hull beginning to break apart under forces no material could withstand. "Get clear." Elena's voice was calm, accepting. "Everyone get clear now." "We're not leaving you," Sarah Chen protested. "You don't have a choice," Elena replied. "Someone has to carry the story forward. Someone has to remember what we learned here." The sphere of nothingness continued to expand, reaching for Ethros itself. In the palace war room, evacuation alarms screamed as the last transport ships lifted off from the planet's surface. Then, impossibly, the sphere stopped growing. "How?" Admiral Korax breathed. On the tactical display, they could see the stellar phantom's final act. The ship had turned itself into a quantum anchor, using its own destruction to collapse the cascade field inward rather than outward. Where 400 Void Swarm vessels had been, there was now only empty space, clean space, free of the dimensional contamination that had marked their presence. "Stellar Phantom, respond." General Lyra called into the communication system. Silence. "Captain Cross, please respond." Static filled the channels. And then, faintly, a voice emerged. "This is Dr. Webb. Stellar Phantom is gone. We're in escape pods, but our quantum drives are failing." Emperor Thalarin was already moving. "Dispatch all rescue ships immediately. Find them." 6 hours later, 5 humans sat in the palace medical wing, battered but alive. Their ship was gone, their home destroyed for the second time in their lives, but they had saved an empire. The Void Swarm. Emperor Thalarin asked. "Gone," Elena confirmed. "The cascade erased their quantum signature from this entire sector. They can't return here." "And the cost?" Elena looked at her surviving teammates. "Everything. Again." Emperor Thalarin studied these remarkable beings who had sacrificed their last home to save his people. "Then we will build you a new one." "Your Majesty." Sarah Chen looked confused. "The Zephyrian Empire owes you a debt that can never be repaid," the Emperor said formally. "But we can offer you something. Citizenship, a home, a future." The 5 humans looked at each other, that silent communication passing between them once more. "We accept," Elena said finally, "but on one condition." "Name it." "We help you prepare, because the Void Swarm we faced here was just a scouting force. The real darkness is still coming, and next time, we need to be ready." Emperor Thalarin nodded solemnly. The galaxy had found its guardians, and they came in the most unlikely package imaginable. 5 survivors who had learned that sometimes, to save everything, you had to be willing to lose everything. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning.